Is that what you're afraid of? Gleb smiled bitterly. Then listen to what I have to say. Was your mother a prisoner or a slave? No, she was a beloved companion to your father, who respected her. The saying goes, better be in prison than to be surrounded by care. Oh, don't envy the happiness of these supposedly freed women so much. It's not yet known whether an even more shameful and bitter captivity awaits them in the future. No one yet knows where this freedom will end once you begin to shake off all the bonds and laws. It may be that not a few women married at the altar will give way to pretty foreigners, and no fewer fortunes will be dissipated in these meetings and lavish banquets, while vices, unknown to us until now, will begin to corrode society, deprive of the foundation cemented by sacred traditions and the firm faith of our ancestors. But let us not discuss what it is just and true. Decide, Elena Danilovna, and choose between me and this new order, as absurd and unnatural as this ruined and bizarre year that will begin in a week. I want a wife just as I imagine her, humble, modest, submissive, and loving, who will feel happy in the bosom of her home. Or are you ashamed of being Russian? Under protection of the home you scorn, our mothers raised brave Russian warriors, of whom our land is proud, and who magnified and glorified its name on the battlefields, while the dissolute, morally unprincipled women, wandering about on visits and evenings, will flee their homes, flouting every duty, and will give birth to infamous monsters, lackeys of foreigners and destroyers of the homeland. Elena listened attentively to her fiancé's words, enraptured. In the rapture of the moment, she raised her beautiful, radiant eyes, full of tears, to Gleb. No, I'm not ashamed of being Russian. I'm proud of it, and I promise you, Gleb Mihailovich, I won't wear these German clothes anymore and come to these meetings. I don't want to stay here anymore. I want to go home. Gleb's eyes shone with happiness. He passionately drew her to him and kissed her. My beloved, how grateful I am to you, and how I appreciate your courageous decision. I have no fear of the future. I will dedicate my entire life to loving and respecting you, as your mother was loved and respected. And now, let us go. I will accompany you to the carriage. How can we leave here without passing through the hall, so that no one sees us? We can go through Francina's room, and then we'll go out through the service stairs to the courtyard. Later, I'll send the maid to get my overcoat. Half an hour later, surprised by her niece's absence, Anna Petrovna stopped by the restroom, where Francina was waiting restlessly, and informed her of Elena's departure. Anna Petrovna nearly had a heart attack in her rage, and if she had crossed paths with Gleb and Elena at that moment, the matter would undoubtedly have ended in a confrontation. But, fortunately, they were already far away. Having recovered somewhat, Anna Petrovna returned to the drawing room and informed Artemy and the Baron of the incredible event, firmly resolved to give her niece a soap she had never seen before. For 2 days had passed without much of any significant happening since the evening at Anna Petrovna's house. The old prince had traveled to his estate near Moscow and had just returned that evening. Ilya told him that, taking advantage of his absence, Artemy had thrown a grand party at the house, and that Anna Petrovna had visited the princess twice, was very angry, shouted and cursed at her, as a result of which poor Elena Danilovna was dejected and even cried. Despite everything, they finally reconciled, and the aunt sent 2 chests of ornaments, capes, and hats, along with foreign maid, much to the nanny's dismay. Danila Petrovich listened in silence to the faithful servant's report and dismissed him. Then he sat down by the window and began to leaf through a pile of papers. But instead of reading them, he fell into deep thought, frowned, and began nervously stroking his white beard. Ilya, who re-entered, brought him out of his reverie. Alexander Danilovich, obliged to come and asked to see him, announced the servant, worried. Surprised, Danila Petrovich stood up. Menshikov, tell him to come in, he ordered after some thought. A minute later, Pedro's powerful favorite entered. He was dressed in simple, dark Western attire and came with his hand outstretched. The host bowed modestly. Welcome, Alexander Danilovich. How can I help you? Menshikov shook his hand in a friendly manner and surveyed the surroundings. Are we alone? He asked. Are there no strangers around? The prince brought an armchair to him, opened the door a little, gave the necessary orders, and returned to his visitor. You can speak without fear, because no one is listening. What do you have to say? I have come as a friend, to warn you and, if possible, to bring you to justice. Why do you openly oppose the Tsar, order to wear foreign garb? Besides, you haven't been to court. Don't you realize that your useless stubbornness in opposing the Tsars will ultimately ruin you, and that the new order is irreversible? The prince stroked his beard impatiently. What have I missed at court? It is so adorned with foreigners that the absence of an old man won't even be noticed. We Russians are unnecessary there. And besides, I have no desire to shave unless I want to be humiliatingly expelled. Besides, I did have to put on a German shirt, which I'll never do. He stood up and examined himself. Tell me, then, how is my brocade kaftan worse than your German one? Full of pockets, not to mention that ridiculous wig? He asked mockingly. Menshikov smiled. Clothing is not important. I understand that at your age it is difficult to change habits, but at least make a concession to your children and let them follow the new path. Oh, Artemy wouldn't wait for my permission, Danila Petrovich retorted bitterly. He has declared himself a follower of all the fads and is already a lackey of the foreigners, so the Tsar won't find a better servant than him. You are judging your son too harshly. During his time abroad, he has become imbued with your customs and traditions. You know that youth loves change and novelty. However, it is not about him, but about your daughter that I wanted to speak and propose a brilliant marriage. She is already engaged, so what marriage should we be talking about? I know, but are you doing the right thing about her future? Gleb Mihailovich shares your convictions, and many at court are already looking askance at him. However, your daughter is inclined toward new ideas, so it is clear she prefers freedom and joy to seclusion. I have reason to believe she likes a young foreigner of good origin, who will soon receive a coveted position. This marriage is worthy, and I must add that the Tsar considers it of the utmost importance. Thus, your consent would restore the sovereign's favor, and your stubbornness would be forgiven. The prince's face burned, followed by cadaverous pallor. Rich, but he contained the anger that boiled his blood. I never went back on my word, he said in a measured tone. But tell me, Alexander Danilovich, who is this fiancé appointed by the Tsar? It's Baron Dorfgame, well recommended by your cousin, a courtier from Courland. He is well liked at court, and your sister is very fond of him. But you rarely go out in society and probably don't know him. Baron Dorfgame? The skinny, yellow-faced German, the hook, knows one who walks like a washerwoman? I've already met him. He has come in to visit Artemy, and since the Baron from Courland praises him, honor be done to Teutonic to speak well of his own. Ha, ha, ha. And this leaping monkey my daughter preferred, you say, to Gleb Mikhailovich? I'm sorry if she has such bad taste. Nevertheless, I will never let her marry an alien adventurer. I'd rather she go to the monastery. Dorfgame is not an adventurer, but a Germanic courtier. He was an officer in his land and... Why did he leave his service and his country? The prince interrupted. Our discussion is pointless, because you apparently misinformed. One thing is certain. Lena only attended her aunt's soiree once, but left reconciled with her fiancé, promising never to go to those gatherings again or dress immodestly. Menshikov shook his head. A passing impulse, my friend, and she's probably already regretted her promise, because from what I know, she has to go to the meeting at the Golovins tonight. Seeing the prince shudder and turn pale, lowering his head, Menshikov touched him by the hand and said in a friendly tone, Be reasonable, Danila Petrovich. Enough confrontation, and do and harm yourself or your children. The prince shook his head. Before that, the soul must be adjusted, in the German manner, to the shamelessness of huckster. Otherwise the German kaftan will be too tight, and you won't be able to put your head in. I'm sick of seeing what's happening around me. What have we come to? If foreigners of the Tsar's first advisors... Menshikov jumped in fright. Unhappy? What are you saying? God forbid anyone hears. It will be your end. It's a good thing we alone, and I'm your friend. Both were silent for a few moments. Finally, Menshikov asked, Tell me honestly, Danila Petrovich, and what you say will stay with me. Why do you hate foreigners? Why are you hostile? Does the new order fit in? You have been to many foreign countries and have personally seen that there is much good in their regimes. You, who love your country, should accept good and useful transformations. Danila Petrovich patted him gratefully on the shoulder. Bro, I thank you for your kind words, Alexander Danilovich, and I will respond with all sincerity, as to a brother. So listen, the prosperity that followed the times of misrule revealed the terrible wounds of our regime in agriculture, industry, and education, and I know we need to do something, but preserving the foundations rooted in everyday life, established since ancient times, even if not entirely correct, but solid. Although I do and believe that everything foreign is better, and that everything that is best is abroad, I am no enemy of modernism and useful transformations. I am simply outraged by the way they are introduced. You cannot, in one fell swoop, destroy an old edifice and build a new one, using foreign and often hostile hands for the task. New directions and ideas must be instilled and assimilated by minds gradually, adapting them to the needs and characteristics of the people. Denigrate and scorch with filth everything that is Russian in Christmas, pouring disdain or indifference into our hearts for our homeland, falsely praising everything foreign, throwing open the doors and gates to all sorts of alien monsters. This does not mean transformation. They invaded us like hungry rats, and I am sure they will soon devour us. We will be left poor and miserable in our own country. All these canongiaseers will reign and mock our nobility, who will lose their positions with the Tsar, and then the alien scum will rule over all who possess it. Do you think the Germans will help our people? I doubt it. No matter how much the wolf is fed, it always returns to the forest. They only believe in profit. Remember the Klachino expedition, when the loyalty of the Germans, by the law of Judas Iscariot, Tez, delivered the Russian army to death, and the country to looting. Well, but the Tsar lavishes us with his benevolence. Yes, he lavishes, just as he lavished us boyars before people at Fort's funeral, saying, "Those are dogs, not boyars." I wouldn't be surprised if he were left alone with his Germans, since ours are increasingly fond of indulgent fashion, like that Boyar Golovin, so obsequious to the Germans, or you. Pardon me. Why doesn't the sovereign approach people like Posakov, a very capable man? The problem is that Ivan Tikhonovich respects our traditions and has already sensed who the Germans are, and that is inconvenient. If that is not the case, why were the Likhodov brothers left in disrepute? They are people of illustrious lineage, highly cultured, and staunch defenders of orthodoxy. Again, a problem. They are not well regarded by the German community. I only feel sorry for one thing. So sorry that they beheaded Grichka Kochikin for his good services. What a fellow believer the Tsar he would be. Change whatever course he wants. Turn everything around. Reversed, he found a way to escape, slender as a snake. The trouble with all this is that the Tsar listens too much to the Germans. See how they have assumed airs of importance under the Tsar's complacency, how powerful they become due to our ignorance, weakness, and manual inability. In the lofty Polish ranks, they do not even blink at what is sacred to people, while among us, they boast of having plundered public property, or are always searching for books that might insult Russia. Debauched and violent, scathing and insolent, they mock our simple customs, our fears, the modest measures we take, and our willingness to surrender to them. No, I'm too old to bend my back, and I'm ready to die for my convictions. Neither torture nor punishment frighten me. These days, no one is safe for their life. Even if you are one of these connivers, God grant that you will not perish in these intrigues of the enemy. Menshikov turned pale and said in a hollow voice, his words remind me of prediction of a seer who prophesied my ascension. You will reach the steps of the throne, but you will die in Ishba. But everything is in God's hands, he concluded, after thinking a little and passing his hand over his face as if to chase away gloomy thoughts. Then there was silence. Finally, Menshikov stood up. May God keep you, Prince Danila Petrovich. May God grant that you never regret your insubordination, he said in farewell, embracing the prince in a friendly way. After escorting the visitor to the door, Danila Petrovich returned to his seat by the window and fell into deep thought, frowning darkly. The news that Elena wanted to break her promise and go to a meeting again left him bitter and furious. She had voluntarily chosen to go to the party, wanting to offend Gleb out of love for Dorf game, Or had Anna and Artemy influenced her young, malleable, and childlike soul? Having an idea, he got up resolutely and went to his daughter's room. The first room was empty. In the bedroom by the window sat the nanny, sewing something, now and then wiping away the tears that ran down her wrinkled cheeks. Seeing the prince, she stood up in fright. "Where is the princess?" asked Danila Petrovich. Aunt Anna Petrovna passed by and took her for a walk. Danila Petrovich pulled up a chair and sat down. "Listen, Matryona, and be honest in your answers. If you compromise your conscience and lie to me or omit something, it will cost you dearly. Ask me, Daddy. I've never lied to you, and I won't do it now at the end of my days," the old woman replied, looking at him with her kind, honest eyes. "Tell me, first, is it true that Lena is planning to go to the meeting in that indecent dress?" "It's true." She resisted a lot, but Anna Petrovna and Artemy finally convinced the poor thing. "Tell me in detail what happened after she returned from her aunt's party." "Oh." "That day she came home happy and said to me, 'Take that dress and shoes away from me. I promise Gleb Mihailovich.' The next day, Anna Petrovna arrived out of breath like a madwoman. I've never seen her so furious. She went to Elena Danilovna and started screaming, saying she'd embarrassed her, made a fool of herself, and left her in despair. What's his name again? Oh, I've forgotten his name. I only know he's German. Then she started cursing Gleb Mihailovich, calling him a scoundrel and a smeared. Oh. At first the princess defended herself and argued with her aunt. Then, unexpectedly, Artemy came and began cursing and reproaching her sister, along with the other one. Then Lenotchka couldn't resist and burst into bitter tears. Anna Petrovna hugged her, caressed her, and extracted a promise from her to go to the Golovins' house that evening. After lunch, 2 trunks were brought in, and a disgusting girl, her breasts exposed, came in and began trying on Lena various things. Costumes. What could she do? She's still a child. Everything amuses her. This morning Anna Petrovna came again talking about the promise, and the princess, all dejected, said to her, "I'm not doing anything right. I promised Gleb Mikhailovich. I don't want to dress like that anymore or go to those evenings. What will they think of me if I break my word? And you and Artemy never stop tempting me with gifts and persuasions." Then Anna Petrovna says sourly, "I'll have to force you to go, because you so foolish you, LL miss out on happiness. Are you afraid, God forgive me, of this Gleb? Are you in love with this scoundrel?" Then she began to talk about the German, always praising him. She spoke of the Tsar and of his mistress, also German. Well, I didn't understand everything. What it seems to me is that Anna Petrovna wants this adventurer to marry the princess. As soon as Anna Petrovna saw that I was listening with all my heart, palpitating, he began to threaten me, saying that he would kill me if I dared to say anything about the conversation between them. "Don't be afraid, Matryona. No one will lay a finger on you while I'm in charge," said Danila Petrovich, getting up to leave. "Now I, in turn, insist that you tell my daughter what we've discussed." Returning to his room, Danila Petrovich indulged in long reveries. A violent hatred awoke in his soul toward his shameless sister and rebellious son, who were secretly corrupting a naive child, encouraging him to disregard his father's convictions and betray his fiancée. He thought of calling Gleb when he had come himself. He had been there for some time, but when he saw Menchikov's carriage in the courtyard, he did not want to go in. "What did you come for, Danilik?" he asked, slightly alarmed. Danila Petrovich recounted the conversation he had with the Tsar's favorite and told him what he had learned about Elena. The young man did not want to believe it. "You heard it yourself. Godfather, how reluctant she was and how much she was, with regrets about having to break her word. ULLC. At the last moment she regretted and would ain't go to party. God grant you are right," the prince observed, sighing. At night, Elena's room was brightly lit with a multitude of candles and a pair of large candelabras next to a large mirror. The mirror was a gift from her aunt and jutted out sharply from the other furniture. Elena was elated to see herself from head to toe, examining herself with a girl's satisfaction. She wore a lacy ball gown,